If I could give you one piece of recording advice, if you could watch only one video from me and then my channel gets deleted forever, this would be it. If you're a singer-songwriter recording music in a home recording studio, this one piece of advice will improve not only your recordings, but also your mixes and your masters. It has to do with what I'm calling the thump. If you slay the low-mid monster during recording, it won't rear its ugly head during the mix. And I'll show you how to do it in this video. Also, stick around until the end, and I'll give you my simple formula for dealing with the low-mid monsters that make their way past the recording phase and into your mix. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Joe Gilder. I've been a recording coach since 2009. Now, it's come to my attention recently that while I do talk a lot about the importance of get it right at the source, which is my mantra and will be until the day I die. By the way, get it right at the source means all of your problems in your studio can be solved by doing a better job at the front end rather than focusing all your attention on the back end, meaning better songs, better recording, better mixes, better masters. And while that's true, and I believe it with my whole heart, and I've spent the last 15 years plumbing the depths of that idea, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface, so I'm going to dedicate another 30 years to getting more intimately familiar with what that really means. I've recognized that most YouTube content, and I am as guilty of this as anybody else, has to do with mixing. People love mixing content. It performs well. It's fun to make. It's fun to watch because mixing is fun. Problem is, people want a mixing solution to a recording and a source problem. And there's no amount of mixing tricks that will solve your recording and production problems. Why do people love mixing? Because it's a little easier. I can slap a plug-in, put a preset, do some things, and I take something crappy and make it amazing. That's amazing. I want to do that. Except that's just not how it works. But that's kind of the lie that we tend to believe. So I'll be the first to admit I've done a lot more content around mixing than I have around recording. I want to remedy that moving forward. Recording content is tricky because there's so much nuance to it. There's so many variables. Plus, I cover it in depth in my recording course, which is the best place for you to go if you want to learn how to do what I teach when it comes to recording and production. Go to homestudiocorner.com/record to check out that course. But today we're going to dive into this thump thing and how to solve it and remove it from your recordings, and that will make the rest of the process so much better. So quick story. If you are a member of PreSonus's Studio One Plus community, one of the things that I help out with over there is we do a monthly live stream where people submit mixes and Gregor and I listen and do critiques. We've been doing that for years now. And one of the phrases I came up with while doing that critique or doing those critiques was this idea of the low-mid monster. The low mids are kind of somewhere between 100 and 300 hertz, roughly. It's not the super deep low end, but it's that part that can cause warmth, but also cause muddiness. And I noticed over and over and over and over again, listening to and critiquing these mixes, people struggle with the low mids. 9 times out of 10, there's something happening in the low mids. There's too much information in the low mid range, causing the mix to sound muddy, to sound thumpy, to have this kind of thump sort of a sound to it that's not pleasant. And so I started calling it the low-mid monster to the point where people in the chat kind of make fun of me. It's all in good humor, but about, no matter what happens in the mix, Joe's going to focus in on the low mids. That's been kind of true because that's been the consistently repeating problem that people face. I'm going to say what the problem is, not what people want to hear. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to demonstrate to you how that thump comes into play when recording with a microphone. So specifically, I'm going to use a microphone and an acoustic guitar to demonstrate the thump that I'm talking about so you can hear it for yourself and then show you how to avoid the thump. Because that thumpiness that happens in just about any instrument, whether it's vocals, guitar, bass, drums, really any instrument can fall victim to this. There's a fundamental frequency to that instrument that typically lives in the low-mid range. We don't want to get rid of low mids entirely because they're important and they contribute to something sounding nice and warm. But typically, if you don't pay attention to it and you don't fix this, you'll have too much in the low mids and that one track will sound a little thumpy. But then if you add that to 20 other tracks in your mix and you've recorded them all in such a way that each one kind of has a thump to it, then those thumps add up to create this incredibly muddy mix that's nearly impossible to fix because you didn't fix it in the recording. You're trying to fix it in the mix. So let me grab my guitar and let's get to work. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. We'll get back to it in just a moment. If you like what you see here, please be sure to like and subscribe. And I got a question for you. Have you ever been in the middle of a recording session? You just got done recording, let's say, a guitar or a keyboard part, and you scratch your head and wonder, what do I record next? Yeah, I've been there. I developed a series of questions that I ask myself whenever I'm feeling stuck in the studio and I don't know what to do next. I organize them into a simple one-page checklist you can keep at your studio desk so you'll never have to be stuck again. You can download the Ultimate Recording Checklist for free. My gift to you, just go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist. All right, back to the video. Okay, the microphone of the day is the Roswell Pro Audio Mini K87. I love this mic. I also love the Mini K47. I've used that one even more. Roswell Pro Audio, go buy one. They're inexpensive. Like the 47, the Mini K47 is I think like $300-400. This one might be a little bit more. Don't ask me which one to get. Just get one. I just don't care. They all sound great, and I'm sure they sound different. But this is not a reflection. What I'm going to show you today isn't a reflection of this microphone because it's a good microphone. It picks up a lot of frequencies. It's a reflection of recording technique that we're going to talk about. So let me grab my guitar. So the acoustic guitar is like the ultimate case study for this because it is complex. It has a wide range of frequencies, and it demonstrates really well this idea of the thump. Because everything from my voice to a bass guitar to an acoustic guitar has kind of a fundamental like whoom, whoom to it. It's easier to hear an acoustic, which is why we're using it today. So I've got the microphone set up here. Let me record real quick, and we'll listen to it and talk about it. Okay, because I know it can be difficult to see from your angle. This was about how close I was to the microphone. That's about, the perspective's a little hard. It's about like distance of my fist. I could probably fit my fist between the microphone and the guitar, and it was pointed roughly around here where the body of the guitar meets the neck. So about the 15th or 12th, 13th, 14th, about the 15th fret, 17th fret, somewhere in here. And let's just quickly, let me just listen back. I couldn't hear as well on headphones, which is a lesson in and of itself, by the way. On my headphones, it had kind of a fullness to it. It sounded big and beefy. Beefy can be good. Most of the time, what you think is beefy is actually muddy and is a low-mid monster. So let's just see. Let's just listen in my listening environment on my studio monitors where I do all my mixing. Let's listen to this. Makes me make a face because it's not pleasant. And here's the first big lesson of the day. What it sounds like on headphones while you're playing or singing it is irrelevant. Yeah, you can learn a little bit and you can develop the ability to get from the headphones what you need to get. But for most people, your first impression on headphones is going to be like, oh, it sounds great. And then you're going to record 8 songs worth of material and then come back and listen on your studio monitors and realize, oh no, it doesn't sound great, because this does not sound great. I didn't do anything to the sound. It's a microphone plugged into the audio interface. It's just a bad mic position, and specifically, it's giving me a whole bunch of thump. What is thump? Let's be real clear about what thump is. That's it. If I zoom in here, it's around 160 or so, which is decidedly in the low-mid camp, and it's almost percussive. It's almost, if I took that guitar and just smacked it, just went thump on the strings, chances are the bulk of the tone that you would hear, that honk, would be right there at that like 160-ish range. And you might say, well, Joe, it depends on what key you're in. No, it's like a drum. It's like a snare drum. Where you hit the snare drum, it has a certain sound. Yes, you can tighten the snares and things like that. But this wooden box, it kind of has that thump sound to it. And if you don't place your microphone in the right spot, that kind of is all that you capture, which is what we have here. And let me emphasize it just to really hammer it home. I'll boost that frequency range here. And what the key to this is that it's happening consistently at no matter what key I'm playing 4 different chords, but that sound, the foom, 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 is consistent no matter what. A second clue is we can see it in the waveform. I mean, look, see these big spikes? Each of those is a thump. You notice how the guitar is resonating with the speakers as I play this. It doesn't matter what key I'm playing, it's almost a separate note entirely. Boom. 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 It happens to be kind of in the key of the song, which is slightly helpful, but it's overall not helpful. Now, we could come in and we could try to EQ this, but that is an uphill battle. I've done it. I did this exact scenario, put the microphone too close, sounded good on headphones, recorded an entire album's worth of acoustic guitars, came back 2 weeks later to listen to it, and it sounded like hot garbage. I decided to fix it in the mix. I should have re-recorded. This was 15 years ago, but I still wake up in cold sweat from it. Not really, but it still bothers me to this day that I did that because on the headphones, it felt good. In real life, it didn't. So let's find a solution. What do we do? This has to do with just mic placement, mic distance, and also the mic angle. What is the mic looking at? Pretend it's a flashlight. What is it seeing? According to the picture I just showed you, the mic is seeing this. It's not seeing more of the instrument. So maybe we back it up to say, instead of, this far away, maybe we give it like a foot away. And maybe we open it up and maybe don't point it right here, but somewhere over here closer to the 12th fret, so that it's not getting quite that much boom. Because if you think about it, this hole, it's like the hole of a kick drum. It's got a lot of volume coming out. We probably don't want to point the mic right at it if we don't want to capture that much thump. So let's try again, and let's use our brains and find a better mic position that doesn't thump as much. Before I record it for real, I'm going to play and just rotate myself. Listen to how different it sounds. Wildly different based on what the microphone is pointing at. So at one point, it's going to be pointed here at like the heel, I don't know, it's called the heel, of the guitar, all the way through the middle section where it should be pretty boomy, all the way up here like on the neck where it should be fairly bright and thin. Just notice the difference. If you've never done this, this is well worth your time to do and become familiar with how the guitar sounds, just moving it around the microphone. By the way, fun fact, not all guitars will want the microphone in the same position. This one tends to want the microphone further down the neck, pointed back towards the body. But like my Taylor, for example, wants it head on, kind of pointed more at that same spot we used in the first take. It sounds way better on that guitar than this guitar, so you have to factor that in as well. You can't have a one-size-fits-all approach. You've got to adjust based on the instrument in front of you, which is why you need good, like, working vocabulary of sorts of what you're listening for, so you can move the microphone to try to capture it. All right, here comes the proper take. right, here's the part where I would cut this out of the video, but I'm not, because this is real life. That still got too much thump. In my headphones, it had less thump than the first one, so I thought it was good, but it's still a little too much thump, so we're gonna do it again. By the way, this is a very normal part of the process. Here we go. That is more like it. That's my guitar. Now, let me show you a picture real quick. This is how far I was. I was a good foot, maybe foot and a half away from the mic versus this. So the volume's different because I had to change the preamp settings and things like that. But this, to me, is a delightful amount of thump that we can just tweak a little bit with EQ versus the original one that was an unusable amount of thump that no amount of tweaking with EQ could fix. The net result is it feels like I added EQ to boost the top end. To the second one, you saw, I didn't do anything but move the microphone and move myself in relation to the guitar. Does this one still have thump? Yes, and that leads us to our final point. Okay, so get it right at the source. It's more of a philosophy, a goal, an ideal than something that we can actually perfectly attain. It's not get it perfect at the source, it's get it right at the source. Get it, I would say, good enough at the source. So for me, in this example today, that means the final guitar recording is 10 times better than the original. Is there still a little bit of thump there? Yes, because unless I get 6 feet away, there will always be a little bit of thump, and I want some of that thump there. There's enough there I can just do a little bit of EQ. I'll show you how I do that in just a second, and everything's fine. The first guitar, I'd have to do huge amounts of EQ, and the whole thing would sound weird and wonky. I'll show you that as well. But we made it way better by taking a little extra time to get the right mic positioning, to get rid of a lot of that excessive thump to where we just have maybe a little bit of thump. Things are gonna thump. Things will thump. I should make that into a t-shirt. Things will thump. But as long as you have the mindset of, man, can I make this sound as mixed as possible just by the way that I record it, your mixing process will be infinitely better. That said, we still need to mix things. We still need to know what to do with tracks that have a little too much thump, or maybe you messed up and your track has way too much thump and you just got to deal with it in the mix. Or maybe you're doing work for a client or someone else recorded it and you didn't have a say in it and it comes to you really thumpy. What do you do in that scenario? Let me show you. It's not unheard of. The first thing is to realize there's only so much you can do. That's step one. Then grab an EQ and just go find the thump. It's probably a very consistent frequency like I showed you before, probably around 160. Let's find the thump first. And then we kind of narrow in to where it's almost like resonating. And we just pull that sucker down and pull it down aggressively until it stops being so thumpy. That's pretty good. I could use that in a mix. The problem is there's not much in between. We can't like get a little bit extra warmth out of the guitar, because as soon as we do, that thump comes in. It's almost like the more thump there is, the wider the thump sounds. So it's covering a bigger range of frequencies. So the closer the mic was, it's a huge thump. And so we can't really get rid of it entirely. This actually worked really well. But we're kind of stuck with this tone. If I want a little more warmth, I can't get warmth without it becoming thumpy again. Let's go look at, as an example, our final guitar. That was much better by itself. Let me grab that EQ again. So let me undo that EQ. So the thump is going to be the same. It's the same instrument. So it's somewhere around this 160 mark. But we can go a little narrower, and we probably don't have to cut it quite as much to get the effect that we want. Because again, it doesn't sound all that bad by itself. We're just going to pull that down just a smidge, and it's going to sound just perfect. Here we go. That feels delightful. Now, there is an element of this where maybe you like the more intimate sound of the closer mic and you're willing to sacrifice some of that thumpiness for the sake of it sounding closer to the microphone, and you know through experience that you can EQ that in such a way that it still sounds nice. In that instance, I'd say you got it right at the source. But what I'm hearing from a lot of people is they just record a bunch of stuff and it all has excessive thump. Even if it has a little bit of thump, when you add all those thumps together, it's like thumpocalypse. The whole mix is just boom, 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 and they wonder, what's wrong? Why is my mix so muddy? That's why, because everything you recorded has too much thump to it. Reduce the thump, things get a lot easier. All right, that's it for me. If you haven't seen this video on how to become a frequency sniper, I'd put that on your list to watch next. Thanks for watching. See ya.